Hi, my name's Jason. I'm the OWL Survivalist. This is the first video of many that I plan to make regarding survival tactics, bushcraft, other things like that. I've put together an Altoids style survival tin that I want to share with you guys. This particular tin I have evolved to what I call my 3.7. I've had so many versions before this, but it's grown to this. And I'm going to open it up, demonstrate everything that's inside of it as far as what you can use it for. And then the second part video that I'm going to produce, I will take it out in the wilderness and demonstrate its actual use in the field. And eventually I'll show my version 4 tin and on to other things that I've created. So I hope this is informative. I hope it gives some inspiration and ideas for things that you can do with your survival tin. And let's get going. Okay, so getting started with my tin, I have this heavy-duty rubber band on here. It's good for holding the tin together, it's good for binding objects together like bundles of sticks, and perhaps even a first aid application as a tourniquet for emergency scenarios. I would like to mention that I usually keep a piece of black electrical tape around the edge to make my kit watertight. I decided to leave that off just for the purposes of demonstrating on camera. Inside, I have this nice reflective mirror that I cut out of a hard drive plate. I did that because the metallic surface of this hard drive plate is a lot more durable than a glass mirror if you drop it in the field. Also, it already has a targeting hole for signaling purposes, and even if it gets fingerprinted or scratched, it's extremely reflective, so it's useful in that way. I also have here a cooking style grill surface. If you happen to catch some small game out in the field, this is a lot more sanitary to cook on than a dirty rock. It's a preference that I had. It also can work as a small buffer to build a fire if you have a cold, moist ground to work on. It fit in my kit, so I thought this would be a great addition. Here, for me, I have this list of the components that are inside the kit. This helps me remember what needs to go back in case any of it gets lost or used out in the field. I also have some instructions on how to do certain things like acquire water, build a fire, rescue signal, or build a fishing pole. This helps me keep my head straight in case, you know, the scenario has caused me to be in a little bit of a panic and I'm not quite thinking like I should. In some cases, people in substitution of this will have a photo of family or friends, or they might even have a piece of paper with some inspirational quotes on it. Something to help keep your attitude positive, since a positive attitude is vital in a survival situation. Inside the lid, I have 2 box blade knives. Those are useful for cutting or maybe even using as spearheads. I have a metal saw blade in here. Primarily its size and type of blade is selected because it would fit inside my kit. I've done some research and found that wire saws aren't quite as good as they're advertised to be. So in this case, while it is a little awkward being so small, you can fashion a handle for it and use it to cut branches for shelter or fire. And it's extremely durable since it is a metal saw blade. Another little point, in case you lose your reflective surface, you can use the inside of your tin as a signal mirror if you needed to. I don't know if anybody's thought of that, but it is an option that's available. So here I have an alcohol prep swab. This is great for first aid application, cleaning wounds. It's also great for starting a fire. It is combustible since it's alcohol, and it provides an assistance to a wet fire scenario. Here I have a small button compass for personal navigation. This is a P39 military issue can opener, in case you run into a scenario where you have canned food you need to get into. Here are 3 X-Acto knife blades. These could be used as dart points, arrow tips. You could put 2 of them together and lace them down into a stick as like a spearhead. I have these stored in this little sheath here so that I don't cut myself by accident. Here is a spool of fishing line, 15-pound fishing line, 25 feet of it, useful for obvious reasons as cordage or for fishing. Here's another spool of upholstery thread. This could be used to repair clothing, or if you absolutely had to in a first aid scenario, you can stitch yourself up with it as a suture compound. It would be painful, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but it would work. That's 50 feet, by the way. Here are 3 little eyelet hooks. These can be screwed into a branch or a pole that you might have, maybe even a walking stick, and you can convert it into a fishing pole using these. 5 small nails for hanging items up or binding them together, whatever you can think of the use of a nail for. Here I have 5 split shot sinker weights used for fishing, and whatever else your imagination allows you to use it for. A safety pin. It has its first aid applications and clothing repair. I also have 5 medium fish hooks and 5 barrel swivels, all part of this fishing kit right here. Here is a small bendy straw. This is good to use if you absolutely have to drink water that you cannot disinfect. It helps you with strange angles, or for instance, if you are trying to filter water through a piece of cloth or clothing, you can at least get to it from inside with the straw. Here are 2 Band-Aids for first aid purposes. Chicken flavored bouillon cubes. Now, acquiring water is probably one of the most important things you're going to concern yourself with. In this case, these are not a very good thing to have when it comes to your water content, but it does help in the field if you're trying to make like a soup or a stew out of something that you've caught that may not taste very good. This adds a little bit of flavor and makes it more bearable to deal with. On some situations, having the salt content is helpful. It helps in water retention, but usually salt's a bad thing. In this particular case, it's mainly just for the convenience of flavoring my food. Here we have 2 birthday-sized candles. These are great as a light source. They're great for transporting fire. If you have a snow cave, a candle can keep a snow cave at 32 degrees and your body heat can do the rest. One little feature about these candles that I really like is that these are the trick candles that you see on cakes that refuse to go out. That's extremely helpful if you're trying to transport your flame from one place to another in a semi-windy environment. Here I have a cotton ball that has been separated and stuffed into 2 blank capsules. This is my way of making a nice compact little tinder kit. Cotton is extremely flammable. It does burn quickly, so you'd have to make sure you have other forms of tinder with it, but this gives me a dry, compact way of storing my fire starter. Here in these 2 glass vials, which obviously as vials you can use them to store other things, currently what they have in them are glycerin and potassium permanganate. Glycerin is used for first aid purposes to disinfect wounds. And the potassium permanganate, I don't know if you can see that very well, these little granules can be used to either purify your water or make a solution that also can be used for first aid purposes to disinfect. As far as disinfecting water for drinking, you would need a 1-liter container and 3 to 4 of these small grain-sized crystals, and you wait about 30 minutes after putting them in there and the water turns a light pink, but it becomes drinkable. It doesn't take care of any other dirt-based turbidity, but it will handle all of your you know, little bacteria problems, possibly parasites, things like that. According to websites that you find, they say it's about 98 to 99% effective in killing, you know, waterborne pathogens. So, you know, nothing's ever 100%, but it's definitely a lot safer than just drinking straight from a creek or a well or a little river or what have you. Collected water through distillation is probably the safest way to go. This would be my second best option, aside from boiling. Now, another neat feature between these two little vials is that when you mix them together, you get an exothermic reaction. It creates a chemical fire. You would have your surface, or dry surface, either like this on the ground or inside your tin, some wood, tinder, and then you put the potassium permanganate down first, and then in equal parts you pour glycerin on top of the potassium permanganate. And make sure it's well oxygenated. And even in a cold environment, this will create an exothermic reaction that starts smoking up and boiling and becomes a fire within 30 to 40 seconds. So that's extremely useful in the field. Here I also have a small magnifying lens. This is an 8 times power magnifying lens. Now, for purposes of magnification, it works really great if you have to dig out like a splinter or what have you. But another really good use is for fire starting. I will say, however, that its best effective range of daylight for starting a fire would be between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. Usually before the morning, there's not a whole lot of heat coming off that would be useful, and after 4 p.m. the angle of light it makes it a little difficult to work with. So when the sun is highest in the sky, this works best. Here I have 50 feet of sinew wax cordage. This breaks down into 4 or 5 strands of smaller pieces, which can be bound together to create up to 200 feet of total line. Aside from that, you can make traps with it, build shelter with it, anything you can imagine using cordage for. This is a great asset to have. Almost as strong as 550 paracord, in my opinion. If you double it up, you can easily, you know, strengthen it some more. Here are 3 sewing needles used for either fixing tears in clothing, or if you have to stitch yourself up, you can bend one in half. They are pliable enough to bend and suture together a wound. Here I have a 1 foot square of transparent plastic. Now, I use this primarily for 2 reasons. The first is to use as a water container. You can fill it with up to 1 liter of water. That's where the potassium permanganate comes in. 3 to 4 crystals of that with this, wait half an hour, purified water. The other option is to build a solar still. It is a much longer process than trying to purify the water, but if you were to dig a hole, in this case since it's a 1 foot square plastic, I would dig a hole about 9 to 10 inches in diameter, about 1 foot deep, and I would place my tin in the center of the hole. And then you could put green foliage leaves, or if you absolutely had to, you can urinate in the bottom of the hole first. And then when you place the plastic over the top of the hole, your rocks to hold it down, and a single rock in the middle to create kind of a divot, then the moisture from the foliage or your urine could evaporate onto the plastic in the process of distillation and drip into the cup, and the cup becomes your drinking container. It does take a long time, 6 to 8 hours. I don't even know if that amount of time would fully fill this, so it's kind of a last-ditch effort to collect water, but it is a method of water collection, and it would be pure. In the case of using, like if you had to urinate in the hole first, it's obviously going to smell bad because it's in an enclosed place, but it would be pure, it would be drinkable, despite, you know, the lack of flavor, or favorable flavor, I should say. But in any case, very useful. Container and water still. In here, I have 20 kitchen matches. These are strike anywhere matches. It would be superior to use a storm, weatherproof, windproof style match. But in this case, this is what I had, and you know, when the time comes, I'll upgrade and change the version of my tin. And even though they are strike anywhere matches, I prefer to have a striker with me. Just makes it easier for ensuring that I get a flame. Then of course the tin itself could be used to store many things. You can collect, you know, insects that you might have to eat. If you do collect insects, like grasshoppers for instance, I still recommend cooking them. They do carry small parasites inside of them that could cause you harm later down the road, so always cook things that you catch to eat. But this is a great little, you know, cage for things like that. Or like I said, you can collect water with a solar still, and if you have fire already available, you can collect water from whatever other source that you might have and boil the water to purify it. It doesn't hold a lot of water. You'd have to drink probably 10 to 12 of these little tin-sized amounts of water to really make it worth your while, but it is a means to achieve that, and it makes it very useful. So, okay, that's my whole tin, everything stuffed in there. Please rate, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you have any ideas or inspirations to send my way, please feel free to. I'm always open to suggestion. And, you know, this is an ever-evolving process. I'm pretty sure some things might change along the way. I might get rid of the cubes, might change my mirror, what have you. If you have any ideas that you think could speed up my process or maybe package this a little better, by all means, throw it my direction. Thank you very much for your time, and there will be more videos to come, including the part 2 where I show this kit being used in the field. Thank you.